It was nearly midnight when the intercom crackled on for the first time in 20 years. Through the static, a small, trembling voice asked, "Nurse Evelyn, can you tuck me in now?" When I first volunteered to document the restoration of Waverly Hills Children's Hospital, I didn't think twice about the stories. Every abandoned building has its ghosts, and I've spent half my career photographing them at least, the ones made of peeling paint and broken glass. The hospital sat on the edge of town, swallowed by pine trees in silence. Its walls were yellowed with mold, and a strange sweetness lingered in the air, the smell of old antiseptic, mixed with decay. They said it had closed in 1978 after a fire took half the East Wing. 27 children and 3 staff members never made it out. The plan was to renovate it into a historical site. I was supposed to capture before Schutzol ways, rooms, equipment, all untouched. The place didn't have power, so I brought lanterns, a camera, and a portable speaker to play soft background noise while I worked. Silence, I've learned, can play tricks on you in places like that. By my 3rd night alone there, I'd gotten used to the way the building breathed. It groaned, wind slipped through cracks. The distant drip of condensation echoed down the halls. I was reviewing photos in what used to be the nurses' station when I noticed the intercom on the wall. The same model they used in the 60s metal casing. Red button, a tiny speaker grill thick with dust. I pressed the button, just out of curiosity. It didn't do anything. No sound, no power, nothing. But at exactly 11:47 p.m., as I was packing up my camera gear, the intercom clicked. A sharp burst of static made me freeze. Then, beneath the hiss, I heard breathing. Small, ragged, like a child, crying quietly into the mic. "Hello," I said before I could stop myself. The static paused, then, softly, a little girl's voice whispered, "Nurse Evelyn." The name hit me like ice water. I didn't know any Evelyn. I didn't know anyone connected to this place. I stepped closer to the intercom, my lantern light shaking. "Who is this?" No answer. Just a faint hum, like the sound of fluorescent lights warming up. Then she spoke again. "It's cold in room 12. Can you tuck me in?" Every hair on my arm stood up. There was no power in the building. The main lines were disconnected decades ago. The intercom shouldn't even work. Primera vez que Hawaii's, darting toward the dark hallway outside. Room 12 was 2 floors up. I remembered it because it still had old murals of cartoon animals painted on the walls. Something deep in me screamed not to go, but curiosity has always been stronger than fear. The stairwell reeked of mildew. My footsteps echoed louder than they should have. When I reached the 2nd floor, my light barely cut through the blackness. The doors were all numbered in faded white paint. Room 9, 10, 11, and then 12. The door was slightly open. Inside, the air felt different. Heavy, stale. The smell of smoke clung to everything. My lantern's light landed on a tiny bed frame rusted into the corner. The mattress was gone, but the outline of a child's small body seemed etched into the dust. Beside it sat an old plastic doll one I'm missing. Its hair melted into hardened clumps. Then the intercom on the wall clicked on again. The same soft static. The same voice. "Are you here, Nurse Evelyn?" I didn't move. My throat felt tight. "You promised," she said, her voice trembling. "You said you'd come back after the fire." The sound of faint crying filled the room. Then something else scratched from inside the wall, like fingernails dragging against metal. The lantern flickered. For a split second, I thought I saw movement. Near the bed, something small and curled up, like a child pulling the sheets over her head. Then silence. The intercom cut off. I stumbled backward, my heart slamming in my chest, and bolted out of the room. I didn't stop running until I was outside, gasping in the cold night air. The next morning, I went back with the restoration crew. I didn't say a word about what happened. But when we reached the 2nd floor, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The intercoms had been removed. All of them. Every single one. The supervisor told me they were disconnected years ago, stripped from the walls for safety, but when I looked at the spot in room 12, the wires were still there, freshly torn, the metal edges sharp and gleaming, and on the wall, written faintly in the dust beneath the intercom, were 3 shaky words, traced by a small hand. I waited. Evelyn. They told me the cameras were just for insurance reasons, standard procedure, even though the hospital had been closed for over 20 years. But when I saw the feed still flickering on, showing hallways that didn't exist anymore, I realized the system wasn't recording what was there. It was showing what had been. I took the night shift at St. Augustine Memorial because I needed the money. Plain and simple. The place was a husk, a sprawling gray structure at the edge of town. Gutted after a fire in the late 90 segundos. Most of the windows were boarded up, and the walls carried that thick, dusty hospital smell that clings to your clothes no matter how long you've been gone. My job was simple. Monitor the security system from the front office, patrol the grounds twice a night, and make sure no squatters or ghost hunters got in. Easy money, they said. The first few nights were uneventful. The cameras were all ancient CRT monitors that hummed constantly, their static crackling through the speakers. I didn't think much of it until Thursday night, when I noticed something strange on the East Wing feed. Camera 12 room 213. That wing had been demolished years ago. I'd seen it myself. It was just rubble and rebar, but the feed was crystal clear, showing an intact corridor lined with doors, bright overhead lights flickering in rhythm like a heartbeat. At first, I thought it was old footage, maybe a test pattern looping. But then I saw something move, a shadow, quick, almost human. I leaned forward, squinting at the monitor. The shadow stopped near the center of the hall, like it knew I was watching. Then the screen went black. I logged it in my report and told my supervisor the next morning. Loesch said those feeds were never fully disconnected. That the system sometimes glitches and plays corrupted video. I wanted to believe him. 2 nights later, it happened again. Only this time the figure didn't vanish. It lingered. Camera 12 flickered to life around midnight. Same hallway, same sterile hum, and there it was. A person, standing at the far end of the corridor. I couldn't make out details, just the outline of a body, still as stone. The longer I stared, the more wrong it looked. The proportions were off. The head tilted slightly, but the shoulders didn't move. Then the lights in the hallway began to dim, one by one, until only a single bulb flickered above the figure. And in that pulse of dying light, I could see its face. No, my face. It looked exactly like me. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The figure smiled, not wide, but enough for the corners of its mouth to tremble upward. Then the feed went to static again. I ran down to the East Wing that night, flashlight trembling in my hand. When I reached the demolition zone, there was nothing, no hallway, no doors, no trace of that corridor I'd seen, just broken concrete and rusted steel beams. I shined my light where the room would have been, and for a split second, I thought I saw something glint in the rubella shard of glass, reflecting the monitor-esque glow from upstairs. When I got back to the security office, the monitors were different. Every single screen, every feed showed that same hallway. Camera 12, Camera 4, even the ones that faced the parking lot. All of them, and in every feed, that same figure stood motionless, closer now. The static rose into a low, grinding hum that made my teeth ache. I reached for the power switch, but before I could touch it, the lights in the office cut out. The only glow came from the monitor's dozens of temol, flickering the same scene. I could feel it then, not see it, feel it. Like the air itself was heavier, pressing down on me. One by one, the figures on the monitors started moving slowly, rhythmically, all in unison. They stepped forward with the same gait, to same passe. And then, in every feed, they turned their heads. All of them looked straight into the camera, straight at May. I remember stumbling backward, tripping over the chair, my flashlight rolling away. The static built into a deafening shriek. I pulled the plug on the main system, but the screens stayed lit. The power switch didn't matter anymore. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was my reflection in the glass. Except it wasn't mirroring me. It was smiling. They found me in the morning, unconscious. The monitor still humming softly. No video files, no recordings, just empty drives. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still see that hallway. And I swear, every night around midnight, my reflection still smiles first. They told me the East Wing had been sealed since the outbreak that no one had stepped inside for nearly 15 years. But when I walked past room 313, I could still hear the soft hum of a heart monitor. Steady, alive. I used to work at St. Mary's Hospital before it closed. I started there when I was 23, fresh out of nursing school, eager, naive, and proud to wear that pale blue uniform. But St. Mary's wasn't a place that rewarded kindness. It had this heaviness to it, like the walls themselves absorbed every last breath of grief that ever passed through. Room 33013 was the worst of them all. It was in the East Wing, an older section of the hospital. Always cold, no matter the season. The kind of cold that clings to your bones. I worked one of my last shifts there before the hospital shut down after an infectious outbreak took several patients and staff. One of them was my closest friend, Clara. She died in that wing. For years, I avoided thinking about that place. But a few months ago, the city announced plans to demolish St. Mary's. Something inside me, maybe guilt, made me want to see it one last time. I drove out there on a cloudy afternoon. The parking lot was cracked and overgrown with weeds, but the front doors were still chained shut. I found a side entrance, one I remembered from my smoking breaks, and forced it open with a rusted crowbar. The smell hit me: first mold, disinfectant, and something faintly metallic, like old blood. My footsteps echoed down the empty halls, where faded posters still clung to peeling walls. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered dimly, powered by what I assumed was a backup generator still running somewhere deep below. I walked past the old nurse's station. The glass window was shattered, papers scattered across the counter like someone had fled in a hurry. I almost turned back right there, but curiositino. Something else kept me moving. When I reached the East Wing doors, I froze. The double doors were chained shut, same as the rest of the hospital. But the chain was cut. I stepped through, flashlight trembling in my hand. The temperature dropped instantly, and the air grew thick. The silence there was different, dense, like the wing itself was holding its breath. And then I saw it. The whiteboard at the end of the corridor. The duty board. It was still there, yellowed, scratched, but unmistakable. I moved closer, my heart hammering in my chest. Written in faded marker were the names of nurses from that final week. Clara's name, and mine. Night shift, room 313. I hadn't written that. My last shift had been cancelled when the outbreak worsened. I never came back after that night. My flashlight flickered as I stared at the board. I felt this sudden, awful pull to look toward room 313. It was only a few doors down, and though the glass window in its door was fogged, a faint green light flickered from within. That same green glow, the color of a heart monitor. I swallowed hard and stepped closer. My shoes squeaked softly against the floor. I pressed my hand to the door, and it was warm, not the chill of an empty building. Warm. The monitor beeped once, faintly, like it recognized me. I pushed the door open. Room 313 looked exactly as it had all those years ago. Bed neatly made, the heart monitor alive and pulsing, steady and slow. The IV pole stood beside it, bag half filled with yellowed fluid, and in the bed, someone lay there. A body. I took a shaky step closer, my flashlight trembling over the shape beneath the sheet. The monitor beeped again, then again, louder, faster. The body twitched. I dropped the flashlight. The room plunged into green shadows. My pulse hammered in my ears as I backed toward the door. Botted Woolden T. Budget had shut behind me. Then I heard it, my name, whispered. From the bed, the sheet shifted, slowly peeling away, and beneath it, I saw a face. My own, pale eyes open, lips slightly parted like it was about to speak. The heart monitor flatlined. The sound pierced through the silence, echoing down the hall. I don't remember running, but somehow I ended up outside, gasping in the cold evening air. I didn't look back. 2 days later, I called a contact who worked in city records. I told him I'd been inside the hospital and asked when the power had last been connected to the East Wing. He told me it never had been. Not since the outbreak. And the strangest part, he said the demolition crew went in the next day to begin clearing debris. When they got to the East Wing, the walls were bare. No monitors, no bed, no whiteboard. Just a single name, written in fresh black marker across the door of room 330 mine.